Giannis has 6 straight 30-point, 10-rebound performances, if you include the playoffs, against the Nets. It's a pretty good thing to do against the Nets, as loaded as they are. Tuesday
are they loaded?
The Nets?
Are they loaded?
Without Kyrie, you know what, Jay? We need to get into this because when James Harden was playing with just Kyrie, that West Coast trip they took like early on, those Western Conference teams couldn't handle him. And when KD was playing with just Kyrie in the playoffs against the Bucks last year, Bucks couldn't handle him. I wonder if Kyrie, for whatever reason, is actually the key component for both KD and Harden on this team.
Well, Kyrie can cook, but I'm not going to discount James Harden. He just had a somewhat of an off game last night.
No,
but when
Harden
James Harden
is amazing.
But when James Harden and KD both hit on their stride, they're a different team. My only question is, everybody kept talking about this offseason about how loaded they were from a depth perspective, right? Perspective. And when I watched LaMarcus Aldridge last night, I'm like, man, LaMarcus Aldridge, this is not a good matchup for him against the Milwaukee Bucks. I watched Paul Millsap. I'm like, man, what's going on with Paul Millsap? And I'm not going to go crazy after one game, but Patty Mills was the one dude where I'm like, okay, that's added depth. That's added depth. I feel like I know what I'm going to get with Patty Mills. Everybody else, I'm not really sure, man. I'm not really sure.
It's one game, though,
That means, yeah, but it means KD and James Harden
got to do more.
Have to do a lot. Like, there's going to be a lot on their shoulders to carry that offensive load.
You know what I wonder about Harden?
You don't have Kyrie there.
Harden last year, to me, game for game, regular season, best player in the league. And then in the playoffs, KD was the best player game for game,
well,
right?
Harden was hampered, too, in the playoffs.
Yeah,
he still balled out.
Yeah. That wasn't Harden at the end. When he came back, it wasn't even really Harden. But in the regular season, he was amazing. But something occurs to me, Jay. D'Antoni was on the bench. Steve Nash was a first-year head coach, right? So D'Antoni knows this is what we're going to do with James Harden right away. It's like rolling out of bed for those guys. I wonder if D'Antoni not being there affects the equation at all.
Well, it definitely puts more pressure on Steve Nash and Jacques Vaughn, right? Jacques Vaughn was the head coach before Steve Nash got brought on board. But that offensive continuity is what you need in that system. But, it's interesting. We always talk about who the best players are. You got to give credit to Giannis and the Bucks, man. Like, talk about a team who just knows who they are. Everybody knows what role they're in. It gives them an advantage at the beginning of the year because teams like the Nets, teams like the Lakers, they need to find that out throughout this journey. But there's certain teams like the Warriors and the Bucks, they know who they are. They know how they play. Guys know what roles they play on those teams.
But the Bucks really hadn't added anything, right? They're the same team that won a championship for the most part. All the same guys.
Minus addition like P.J. Tucker.
Yeah, but for the most part, they're the same guys, meaning like Drew's there, Giannis is there, Middleton's there, the coach is there. And on top of that, last night, they're getting their rings. It's a ring ceremony. They're playing a certain way. If you fast forward 4 weeks from now, do the Bucks look like they look, and do the Nets look like they look last night?
I'll tell you the one dude, and nobody's going to talk about him because we only talk about brand names, but Joe Harris, for signing that $70, $80 million deal, was abysmal towards the end of last year.
Yeah, he in the playoffs went away.
And last night as well, he was non-existent on the floor. So you talk about for how much attention KD and James Harden garner. You need a guy to space the floor. That's what Joe Harris was paid all that money to do.
You got to knock him down.
But all his career, he's shot the lights out. I don't think that just goes away.
Well, it went away last year in the
went away
playoffs.
during the playoffs.
Well, that's a separate issue because you needed to step up in big games.
But it went away during the playoffs and it went away last night. He carried the end of the season into the first game.
Yeah.
People usually don't do that.
You know something? When you
Wow. I just heard he shot the same percentage as Ben Simmons from the three-point line in the playoffs.
That's amazing.
What?
That's amazing.
Are you sure about that, Yates?
Well, I mean, I'm sure
Ben
Yates
Simmons
knows
shot a 3 in the playoffs?
Nah, that's the point.
That's the point.
Listen, when you watch the Olympics, right, Team USA, if you saw that roster to begin a season, you'd be like, they're going to run away with the championship. And they were struggling early on in the Olympics. Why? Because they're playing teams that have played together for 10 years. Yeah. They just got thrown together. You have to give – am I wrong, Jay? Don't you need to give time for even it doesn't matter how much talent you have to gel as a team?
You do. But it's like when you see a team that relies upon KD and James to do so much, it starts to make you think, all right, if this bench is not what it is, man, I'm telling y'all, Miami has a chance to cause a lot of noise in the East. And you can overlook Miami, but last year they were destroyed by COVID. But you still got Jimmy Butler there. Tyler Hero looked great in the preseason. I think he can step up. depending upon Victor Oladipo, if he comes back being healthy, P.J. Tucker adds that defensive discipline to them. P.J. Tucker was the reason why the Bucks beat the Nets last year with the way he defended KD in the playoffs. And then you add Bam Adebayo. I mean, they are a team that will be in that upper echelon.
Well, the real reason
they got a nice coach too.
Eric Spoelstra, yes.
The real reason the Nets, championship coach. The real reason the Nets lost is because they weren't healthy. Like they didn't have their guys. And what I wonder about Kyrie, the reason I'm thinking about him, not just because right now he's not there, but because he was a guy throughout his career where you saw consistently at times like, damn, you add him to the Celtics, they somehow get worse. What's up, Kyrie? And that happened a couple different times in his career, even in Brooklyn. Then they brought in KD and Harden. And Kyrie, to me, clearly makes this team much better. And I wonder, Jay, if it's not because he's sort of even though he has so many point guard skills, his nature is like he's a 2 trapped in a 1's body. With Harden there running the offense, it, in a way, maybe frees Kyrie up to be the player he really is and might be the key ingredient to this team.
Let me put you on something, Max. In basketball, we no longer call players 1, 2s, 3s, or 4, right? There are hybrid guards, there's combo guards, there's point centers, there's point forwards. Like there's a whole new terminology around
or something,
the way guys are really evolving into play. Like with KD, Kyrie, and James, you have 2 combo playmaking guards, right? Combo playmaking guards combined with the most efficient scorer the game has ever seen at 7 feet tall. So you take away one of those weapons, they can still get there. You just need 2 of those weapons to do a lot more.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.